Hey Dan, how's it going?
Hey, David, thanks for having me over. What are you going to show
Oh,
me?
well, so today there's been a lot of talk around FactoryStudio and Opto22, and I thought what a better video to put together than trying to get Opto22 going from a Groove EPIC over to FactoryStudio from Tatsoft.
Wait a
Uh,
minute. You
yeah,
said Factory Studio?
uh-huh,
Haven't you
yeah.
done this already in Ignition?
I have done a lot of things in Ignition, but it's high time we quit talking about it and actually start doing something with it. So that's what we're going to do today. And since it's our first Tatsoft video, I can't think of a better way to celebrate than with our Tatsoft hats. As Dave
Well,
Hellier
wait a
likes to
minute.
say, hats on
You,
for Tatsoft,
hats on for Tatsoft. So
right?
you must know Dave Hellier too.
Oh yeah, no, he's a great guy. I've known him for many years,
Hey, Dave, I got the hat on.
right?
Okay.
All right, so let's go ahead and fire this thing off. So what we're going to do today is that I'm hooked up to an Opto22, their Groove EPIC, and what you're seeing on the screen right now is it's their pack control, it's their development environment. So this is how you do all the programming within the Opto22, within the Groove line and the snap packs and all that type of thing. Normally, I have a whole lot of other objects up here that you can use. So you'll have, action blocks and you'll have condition blocks, and that's how you say, okay, what's my condition? What am I going to do type of thing. For this, just to make it simple, I put in an Opto script for the basic motor demos that I've done. I just thought it was easier to do it this way. And for some people who don't want to walk through all of this script, I'll just pop open my Easy Rack PLC real fast, and you can see on this particular one, this is the exact thing we're going to do in ladder logic. So it's a simple
Cool.
motor control where if the motor is not running, the stop light is on. And then you have a local switch, a remote switch, so I can operate it right from the panel, or I can operate it remotely. There's a seal-in circuit, a way I can stop it. And then finally, if it's either local or remote run, I do the same thing down here. So what I've done here is taken that exact same logic. I've built in a little extra in here because I don't have the IO that's hooked in. So you can see over here, I'm using both an EPIC and a RIO. And so I just built in some extra tags so that I can actually simulate that my selector switch is in local or remote run, so I can actually control it via the HMI. So make
So you're
sense?
putting them through the test without actually needing to touch hardware.
Exactly. Exactly. So it's, and the correct logic is there. So if I did wire it up and wanted to get onto some pilot lights, you would see those lights light up. And if I had my push buttons hooked up, it would still operate it. But really just wanted to get into the Opto22 and start using some of that hardware.
Cool.
So once you're going from here, the next thing you need to do is that I brought it into Kepware, so I can actually go in, which is it's an OPC UA server that I'm using for this. And so within that, with this in particular project, I've created an Opto22 channel. And for that, I've created both the RIO and the Groove are
Okay.
in here. So you'll notice that all of these tags that I was using over in this particular project are now showing up over here as well. So one of the things I wanted to point out is how you actually go about configuring the address for the Opto22. And if you're not sure how to do it, Kepware does a phenomenal job of providing you with documentation. So there's a couple of different ways you can do it. If you have the HDD state, what that is doing is that it's actually going out and talking directly to the IO. Or if you'll notice up here, I also have some numeric variables. These are like your memory tags that you've built in. So this is what I'm using for some of those when I'm doing the start and the stop of the HMI. It's just a memory. It's not physical IO. So
Okay.
these are the ways that you can get all that configured in there. And if you don't want to go looking for the documentation, you can always put in a new tag. And if you're not sure what to do here, you can just type that in, hit enter, and it'll give you an error and say, hey, do you want to bring up the help docs? So it's a hack trick for people like me. So far so good.
Yes. Keep going.
All right. So again, gone from Opto22, got it all programmed up, bringing it into the into OPC. Now we're going to bring it in to the into FactoryStudio. So when you first start working with FactoryStudio, and I'm not going to walk through how to launch a project or anything like that, but what you'll want to do is start connecting to some devices. So you come over here to a channel, and you'll notice that there are a ton of different channels. These are the drivers that you can use to talk to all kinds of different devices. Now, it is my understanding there's a forthcoming Opto22 driver that is native so that I wouldn't have to use a Kepware or an OPC server in the future, but that's not quite ready for prime time yet, or it hasn't been released. So I just brought it through OPC UA. Since there's a lot of connectivity out there through OPC UA, it's not a bad idea. So really all you have to do is here is say, I'm going to create a channel and it's going to be OPC UA. Next thing you note is, okay, what's the node? What am I'm using this OPC driver. What am I actually connecting to? And so this is where you get into your primary station and you go through and all the configuration of that. Now, one thing I want to caution people with FactoryStudio out of the box, and this is on the current version of the 9.1.8, is that when you go in and configure your OPC server, you're going to have to create some certificates. So if you look over here on my desktop, there is a runtime, and there's also just a manager tag. That's a server, certificate that you have to create, and you have to bring those over into Kepware as well. So if you, let me pop over here. So if you come into that configuration of where you're going to be setting all your OPC UA, you can see that we're going to have some trusted clients, and those same tags are going to be over here as well. So just, a little bit to do, but with the forthcoming release of 9.2, you're not going to have to do that. This Advisol that they use here, they're going to use something different. So you're going to be able to just browse those right away.
That'll be cool.
Yeah, it'll be pretty slick. So once you've got that all configured and everything is ready to go, you can actually just hit the import button, and that'll actually go out and scan your entire OPC server for all the tags that are available on it. There's quite a few, so I'm not going to do it because that gets a lot of your system tags and the like. But once you've done that and you've created all your points, now you can see that I have given it a friendly name within FactoryStudio. That's the tag name, but you can see the address. So I'm on the Opto22 channel with inside the groove, the RIO. So this tells you, and then what all those tags are. So again, coming back over here, you can see, okay, there's my EPICs, there's my RIOs. These are all coming in. And now I have those tags all ready to go. Pretty slick, huh?
Yeah, it's very readable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. And they have different colors. I just happen to use this particular, but you can come up here and change it to some different themes in there if you want to, but I just keep it as is. Or you can just come over here and create those trends as well. So again, we've gone from the Opto22, created all of our tags, brought it in through our Kepware server, and now we've created the devices and all the points that we're going to have. The points here, now what we're going to refer to as tags. Now it's time to draw it out. And this will be a very familiar picture because this is a demo that I've set up before. It's really not to show anything fancy other than this is how you do these types of things. And this is, some basic simple motor control, those types of things. So when you come here to the start and stop, so these are going to act as push buttons. And even though they look the same, these are push buttons, and these are actually lamps that when we're in the runtime environment, it'll be gray if it's off and then colored if it's on. So within these, if you come into the configuration of it, what you have is there, now we're going to do an action on this button. So this is a symbol that comes right out of the library. And when the button's up, of course, you have to depress it. So when the button goes down, it sets that value to 1. And so what that's going to do is it's actually going to write the value of these tags over here to 1. And on that seal-in circuit, that it's going to start the motor. And then, of course, when you lift up on it, it's now going to set that value back to 0. And so within the logic that we have here, what that does is that it's now going to say, okay, I have my remote switch is on, and then I've hit my start HMI. That is now 1. My stop HMI is still 0. So let's go ahead and we're going to put this in run mode. So now I'm run mode, and I'm going to go ahead and start the motor, is how that logic follows through.
So it acts like a momentary switch.
It's a momentary switch, yeah. And this is going to stop it, and this is going to start it. On these here, what they are, it's another symbol that's very similar, but what I've done here in the centerpiece is that that's actually a lamp. So instead of having an action, I'm now going to set in a fill color. So when that value is off, meaning that my motor is actually running, it's going to be a gray color. But when that value is set to 1, it's going to be red. And so that now this tag is assigned to that stop pilot light that I have running here. And of course, maybe I didn't explain this very well. This is actually going to that stop HMI. So that's my action. And now I have an indicator of what this is going to look like. And I've done the same thing with the rest of them. There's a whole pile of colors you can set. Just keep in mind that there is the appearance of what it looks like when you're working with it in the environment. And then, of course, when you're actually working with it, what it's going to look like at runtime. Even though these are both red, these are two independent controls. So just keep that in mind. If all of a sudden you're in there, it's like, gosh, why is my tag not blue? It's blue here, but it's not blue when I'm in runtime. It's just something to keep in mind. So I've done that with all of them. Put in some text, given in a clock, and that's basically the layout. So any questions on what I've done here?
No, it looks pretty straightforward, and I can see how it matches that ladder diagram.
Yeah, no, exactly what it is. So I already have this running, but now you're just going to come over into runtime and some things that FactoryStudio does. It's a little bit different. You have version control. You have you have backup servers or redundancy that's already set in here. You can just run a test. So you're just testing it, as the name would suggest. And then you can actually get into startup. Since I've already done that, we have that runtime event going. Now you come in here and you realize, okay, my motor stopped. Well, it doesn't look like I'm in a mode right now. So this would be like the selector switch down on the plant floor set off. So you know what? I need to turn that on. So I can either set the switch or I can just come in here, and this is that logic that I've built. So off of my RIO, I'm now just going to toggle a switch on. Now you can see I'm ready to go in remote mode. So here on that display as an operator, if I'm sitting somewhere up in a control room, I can see, hey, by the way, that this is ready to go remote. And of course, at my local panel, I'd see that, both the switch and this light's on, letting you know that, hey, caution, this is in remote mode. It could start up when an operator hits it. So all I have to do is hit the start the motor. And if you look behind me, you can see that those actual lights on my PLCs, both the EPIC and the RIO, change. So I also have an output that's coming off of my RIO as well. There's a couple of built-in relays that I'm using. So again, what's really slick about the Groove platform is if I need a little extra I/O, I can go into a RIO and I can have all kinds of I/O available to me. But there's two built-in relays. And then the very simple thing of just turning it off, you can see it turns it all off. So not real complicated, but it's just, you'll notice in here that just the cleanness and the richness of these graphics, that the way that FactoryStudio does it, creates some pretty slick stuff. And as we get into some more projects, it'll show you a lot of the controls that are in there and some of the things that it'll do.
This is cool, David.
Yeah, thank you. So any questions on what I've done so far?
It looks pretty straightforward. So is this kind of your first rodeo with FactoryStudio?
So I've worked with it in the past, but this is the first thing that I've done that's actually been recorded and published out there.
Oh, cool.
It's a very powerful tool. It is different than some of the other SCADA development environments you've worked with, that I've worked with before. But once you start understanding what's happening underneath the hood, there's just a lot of things it'll do that are pretty powerful.
Cool.
So, the other thing that I'm pretty excited about on the new 9.2 release is that what we're looking at here is it's an asset hierarchy. And this is actually connected in. So you probably noticed on my development environment that I had one of the devices that I was hooked into, or the channels, was a spark plug, was an MQTT broker that's using Spark B. So I can actually just set that up, and now I can browse all the tags that are available within that particular system and see everything that's going on that broker. What's unique about this is these actually aren't tags. If you notice over here in my development environment, I don't have any tags that are utilizing that. But this namespace is now available to anything in the project. So instead of being a tag, I just have to bring it into that MQTT namespace. So pretty slick stuff. And then one other thing I'll be working on that'll be forthcoming is that, I don't know if you remember, I did a demo where I was connecting in HiByte and pushing it into Power BI and creating a dashboard around some compressors. Someone asked, is there another way I can do that? Well, lo and behold, I can do that within FactoryStudio as well and have all the same drop down in Dynamics as well. So in a future video, we'll come in and show you how I put all that together. I did the same thing in Ignition. I did the same thing in Canary Labs as well. So it's all the cool thing. And about this, the idea of this technology is that it connects in and I can utilize it. I can consume information and I can publish information. Doing that with FactoryStudio right here. So anyway,
It's fascinating.
kind of basic, but gives you an idea that it'll do quite a few things out there. So let's go ahead and get this running again, just for giggles. So pretty sweet, huh?
It is.
All right.
The speed with which you can demonstrate the successful integration of these systems.
Mhm.
I'm having a hard time believing these are actually separate vendors that play well together.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's all part of remember the 4 key attributes got to be open and lightweight, report by exception and edge driven, and all of these fit together in an ecosystem. And I could have just as easily taken all of these same tags and published them out and consumed them in a whole different system and have been none the wiser. Again, these are these other tags that are coming, over here off of the, off this broker like these. There's a demo that Canary Labs does. This is all part of their pumps and towers. You can see all this information. This is actually historian data that is coming off Canary Labs, and then it's getting published right back out to the broker itself. So they're subscribing to data, they're publishing data once it gets turned into a form. So, and now I can visualize it and utilize it, consume it within FactoryStudio. I can do the exact same thing within Ignition and other IoT platforms as well.
Cool.
So, but that's really all I had, short and sweet. But, again, this is just showing you how you can go right from Opto22 using a Kepware server and going right into FactoryStudio. And again, like I said, once that the new release is out, that's why I understand there's going to be an Opto22 connector right over here as well. So you won't even need to use that Kepware server sitting out there.
We're going to have to update this session.
Yeah, we absolutely are. Well, I'm excited about 9.2. There's quite a bit in there. These are just a couple of them. There's going to be more things as well. There's going to be some other channels that come in here that you'll see that you'll now be able to utilize that asset framework. Again, I don't think that's public yet, but there's going to be some pretty sweet functionality that's going to be available right out of the box. So you don't have to bring anything in. You can just consume that information without utilizing any resources, that is powerful.
Well, David, I know you as G5 Consulting, but if people want to be able to look at more of your video content, what's a good place for them to get to?
So this video will be up on the YouTube channel. So it's just G5 Consulting. Go look for it, and I'll have links to it up on LinkedIn and within the community that we have. So you should be able to get to it pretty quickly.
Cool. That's really
cool. All right, thanks.
Cool.
Well, hey, Dan, thanks for taking a look. I appreciate your time today. All right, and again,
hey, how are they going to tell us apart? Oh, now I see.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they'll be able to tell us apart. All right. Hey, thanks for your time again, Dan. It's much appreciated. Have a great day.
It's great to work with you, David. Bye-bye.
All right, sir.